After using multiple Hall Effect keyboards, I've realized one thing. Most of them are built for gamers who only game. They're fast, responsive, and very impressive, but a lot of them are really small. And for students and people that need those extra keys, they're not quite great. However, the MonsGeek M2 V5 is trying to fix that. It is a full-size Hall Effect board that is not just focused on W, A, S, or D, but every key you touch throughout the day. So the question isn't whether Hall Effect is good. We already know that. The real question is whether this makes sense as a main keyboard, or a full-size Hall Effect is still solving a problem no one has. I'm Klebster, and in this video, I'll break down where the M2 V5 really shines, where it falls apart, and who this keyboard is genuinely made for. Now, you might be wondering, isn't this the same company that made the MonsGeek M1 V5? Yes, and this matters, because the build quality here is almost identical, except now it's full size. And the keyboard is heavy. I thought the 75% was heavy, and it is, but adding a full numpad and more aluminum pushes this into brick territory. It's mostly a good thing. On the plus side, it feels extremely premium and it does not move at all when gaming or typing. Once it's on your desk, it stays there. The downside, the weight can be a little annoying. Sometimes it catches my mouse pad, and fixing that means lifting my monitor, the keyboard, and adjusting basically everything. So yeah, it's really heavy. But realistically though, I'm just nitpicking there. For most people, it won't be an issue at all. Visually, the keyboard looks really, really clean. The translucent keycaps make it stand out, and in a white setup especially, it just pops. MonsGeek also brought the same design language over to their 75%, which I'm really glad they did. Both form factors look absolutely amazing. Structurally, it's really solid, no flex, bending, or nothing that feels cheap. I mean, what can you expect? It's aluminum. It only costs around $100 to $120. The only real issue I ran into is when I opened it up, there was a few small paint scuffs on the aluminum corner of the keyboard. Not a big deal as no one's gonna really notice it, but it's worth mentioning. Overall though, the build quality is exactly what you want here. Heavy, solid, and premium with only very, very minor flaws. This keyboard has a lot going on, so let's start with the technology. Yes, this is a Hall Effect keyboard, which means that it uses magnetic technology instead of your regular mechanical switch. How does that help? These types of switches are much faster than your regular switch. You can adjust actuation points and add some settings that mechanical switches cannot do. And what makes this interesting is that it's full size. You get Hall Effect performance without giving up the numpad, which makes this genuinely useful if you're a student or someone who games but still needs a practical daily keyboard. It's basically the best of both worlds. As for performance, it's really solid. No latency issues at all, no weird behavior from the sensors. It has a 32K scanning rate, which makes the speed really fast. I tested this across multiple games and it worked exactly how you'd expect a Hall Effect keyboard to work. Now, one feature I really like here is the ball catch system. We saw this in the MonsGeek M1 V5 TMR, The top case is held together by magnets instead of screws, so taking this keyboard apart is ridiculously easy. If you're into modding, huge win. Under the case, you'll notice a gasket mount style design, but instead of traditional pour-on gaskets, MonsGeek uses silicone jackets. It's really interesting because gasket mounting can often interfere with Hall effect sensors. However, the gaskets here barely add any bounce at all. Now, although gasket mounting is supposed to provide bounce, this is good because the Hall effect sensors won't be affected, but you won't feel a difference when typing. Another standout is wireless support. You get both 2.4G and Bluetooth, which is still pretty rare for Hall effect keyboards. The only downside is the toggle switch. It's hidden under the caps lock key. So if you switch between wired and wireless or between Windows and Mac, you'll need to pop that keycap off every single time. Finally, the PCB has south-facing RGB, which means full keycap compatibility, and the lighting itself is actually really bright. Speaking of RGB, let me show you the different lighting modes you get in the software. To start off, this keyboard sounds addicting. But before we get to the sound test, let's talk about what actually makes it sound this way. Starting with the stabilizers, they come pre-lubed, and across the board there's basically no rattling. On my unit, however, the spacebar does have a slight tick, but honestly it's minor and doesn't bother me at all. Every other modifier sounds clean. The switches here are Acco Astro Aim switches, and they're also factory lubed, and these are butter smooth. There's no scratchiness, no spring ping, it's just the clacky sound of the switch. Speaking of sound profile, I describe it as marbly and slightly clacky, but still controlled. It's not loud, it's just really satisfying. But don't take my word for it, here's the sound test. Okay guys, I'm gonna try and keep this short and sweet. This software is technically a web software. However, you need to download this thing, IoT underscore driver. You can just download it by going to MonsGeek, and then you would want to go to the keyboard that you want. So for me, it's this one. Yeah, you scroll all the way down, and you go to open MonsGeek MonsGeek V4 driver, or it'll tell you to download something. I already have it open. I already have it running in the background somewhere, because I explained this in the other video. I'm just gonna explain the things that I have on. If you want something more in depth, I highly recommend you go to my other video on the MonsGeek M1 V5 TMR, because I think that has much more detail. So first off, we have configuration. Obviously, you can set macros. You can change the actuation. If you want the fastest possible, you go to like press at 0.1 and release at 3. Pick between like which switch is the specific switch, or which key is the specific switch. They don't have a right switch type for that, so just keep it at glare. Now for custom actuation, what I did realize when I had it at the minimum 0.1 and 3 is that I had issues where I was double clicking. Well, not double clicking, the keys would register twice. So I highly recommend you put on false touch guard, and that fixes all the problems. And I barely noticed the difference. To advance, you have all the cool settings, like DKS, you have mod tap, toggle key, and you have SOCD. In other settings, you have like the sleep time for all the different modes, and polling rate, which I have at 8,000 hertz. Here you can set up macros, pretty simple. I like the software, it's nice and clean, it's not too confusing. The language might be a little bit confusing because I think it's translated from Chinese. For example, here in the RGB settings, I have some weird names like peaks rising one after another. Like that's kind of weird. What I noticed about the RGB too is that it defaults at 2, and that's really slow. So I highly recommend you set it up to 4. And then also for share, you get to see like, you know, some RGB modes that other people have loaded for updates, and that's about it. It's not too complicated. There's some things that they could change, but overall it's a really good software that you shouldn't really complain about. Okay, that's it for the software. Thanks. We're gonna go into gameplay now. Bye bye. So you may notice that this part of the video is called conclusion and not gameplay, and part of it is because I couldn't record any sufficient gameplay footage because all of them were so bad. Like we either lost or I forgot to record like desktop audio or something, so you could only hear my microphone. it was really bad. In conclusion, I'm going to be giving my thoughts and who should buy this keyboard and who it's for. My thoughts is that this keyboard was actually really good in terms of look, sound, and performance. But was it for me? I'd actually say no, and here's why. So just because I don't want to buy it doesn't mean that you guys shouldn't buy it either. But it's just because I don't use the mouse pad as much as I use the arrow keys and the F row. So I found the 75% layout, the MonsGeek M1 V5 TMR, to be much better for me in my desk space. However, if you're someone that works or is a student that needs the numpad, like it's a must, if you need the numpad and you game on the side, this keyboard is a great solution to your problem. That's going to be it for today's video. Leave any comments down below for any ideas or questions that you have. I'll do my best to respond to every single one and answer each and every question. Thank you guys so much for watching until the end, and I'll see you guys in the next video.